Hey, welcome in. Before we get into the serious stuff, I want you to think about something you can do now that used to feel impossible. Maybe it was tying your shoes. Maybe it was reading a full page without getting lost. Maybe it was solving a math problem that used to look like it was written in another language, or riding a bike without someone holding the seat, or speaking up in class without your voice doing that weird shaky thing, or finally remembering the difference between there, and there without having a small panic attack. Whatever it was, you couldn't do it. And then somehow you could. That gap between I can't and I can is not magic. It's not a talent fairy visiting you in the night. It's not because the universe suddenly decided you were worthy. It's your brain doing what brains are built to do: change with experience. Today, we're going to talk about that, not in a vague motivational poster way, not in a believe in yourself and the universe will provide way, in a practical, here's what this means for how you actually learn in school way. This is lesson 1.1 of academic excellence. We're at the very beginning of a longer journey about how your brain learns, how you can study smarter, how you can manage time and attention, how you think critically, how you write and present and take tests without losing your mind. But we start here because if you believe the wrong thing about your brain, a lot of the later strategies won't stick. They'll bounce off. You'll hear them, nod, and then go right back to the same habits that weren't working. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to explain two big ideas in your own words. One, your brain changes with experience. It is not a fixed machine that was built fully on your seventh birthday and then locked in a display case. Two, effort matters and strategies matter even more. Believing you can improve is useful. Knowing how to practice is what actually moves the needle. That's the target. Let's go get it. For a long time, a lot of people talked about intelligence like it was a permanent stamp on your forehead. You're smart or you're not. You're a math person or you're not. You're creative or you're unfortunately not. You're a natural athlete or you should stick to the bench. That story is tidy, it's clean. It sorts people into boxes. It's also incomplete, and for a lot of students, it's quietly destructive. Your brain is not a finished product, it adapts. When you practice something with attention, really practice, not just stare at it while also scrolling, the networks involved in that skill get more efficient. Connections strengthen. Pathways that used to feel like hiking through mud start to feel more like a worn trail. What felt slow and clumsy starts to feel more automatic. We call this idea neuroplasticity when we want to sound fancy at dinner parties. In plain language, experience shapes the brain. Think about learning to type, or to dribble a basketball, or to read music, or to drive. At first, every move is conscious and awkward. You're narrating every step in your head. Later, parts of it run with less effort. You don't think left foot on the clutch every single time. That shift is not because you were always secretly good at it. It's because repeated, focused practice changed how those circuits work. Now, important honesty check. I'm not going to tell you that you can become literally anything with enough positive thinking. It's not how it works. And I respect you too much to sell you that version. People start with different strengths. Some skills will come faster for you than for another person. Biology is real. Background is real. Opportunity is real. Support at home is real. But here's the part that matters for school. Within a wide range of abilities, the difference between stuck and better is often what you do next, not some permanent ceiling you hit in fifth grade and then have to live with forever. So when you hear your brain can change, don't hear everything is easy if you believe. Hear this: The way you practice, the strategies you use, and the feedback you pay attention to actually shape what your brain gets good at. That's not hype. That's the practical version of the science, and it's the foundation of everything else in this course. Let's make that process visible. Focused practice leads to stronger connections in the brain. Stronger connections lead to more automatic skill. That's the path from clumsy to capable, not a talent transplant, not a personality upgrade. Practice that is focused enough to matter, repeated enough to stick. At first, every move is conscious. Later, parts of it run with less effort. That is what automatic means. Not effortless forever, just less effort for the same skill, which frees attention for the next challenge. Let's get a little more specific about learning itself. Learning is not pouring facts into an empty bucket. Your brain is not a storage unit with unlimited empty shelves waiting for teachers to drop boxes on them. If that were how it worked, the students who sat quietly and received the most information would automatically be the strongest learners. That's not what we see. Learning is connecting. New information sticks better when it attaches to something you already know. If you've ever tried to learn a new game and someone explained it by comparing it to a game you already understood, it's like soccer, but with your hands. That comparison was doing real cognitive work. It gave the new thing a place to land. Without that landing place, the explanation is just noise. We'll use a tree metaphor for this. Roots and branches are what you already know. New leaves attach more easily when the branches are there. If the branches are missing, the leaf just blows away. You felt that. You sit in a lesson, the teacher is clearly speaking English, and somehow none of it is sticking. Often, that's not because you're broken. It's because the new material has nothing familiar to hook onto yet. That's why two students can sit in the same class, hear the same explanation, and walk out with completely different levels of understanding. It's not always effort. Sometimes one student already had more branches for the new leaf to attach to. Sometimes one student activated those branches on purpose. Oh, this is like what we did last month. And the other was starting from zero in that moment. The good news, you can grow branches on purpose. You can activate what you already know before a lesson. You can ask, what does this remind me of? You can explain a new idea in your own words instead of copying the teacher's words. Those moves are not extra credit personality traits. They are learning tools. They are available to you. So if someone tells you just pay attention, that's incomplete advice. Paying attention helps. Connecting what you're hearing to what you already know helps more. Attention without connection is how you end up with a full notebook and an empty understanding. This also explains why cramming feels productive in the moment and then evaporates by Thursday. You're stacking leaves with almost no time for them to attach to anything durable. We'll come back to better timing later in the course. Spacing, retrieval, all of that. For now, hold on to the idea. Connection beats isolated memorization. You've probably heard some version of this. Believe you can improve, and you will. Or it's all about mindset. Or whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. There's truth in it. There's also a lot of exaggeration floating around out there on posters, in assemblies, in well-meaning advice that oversells what belief alone can do. Here's the honest version. Beliefs about ability do matter. If you're convinced that struggle means you're permanently bad at something, you are more likely to quit early, avoid hard practice, and interpret mistakes as proof you should stop. That pattern is real. Researchers have documented it. You've probably lived a version of it. If instead you treat struggle as a normal part of getting better, you are more likely to keep going long enough for practice to work. That pattern is also real. But, and this is the important but, large studies of growth mindset programs show that the average effect on grades is usually small, not zero, not imaginary, small. Usually, in some situations, for some students, especially when it is paired with real strategies. Not a replacement for those strategies, not a magic wand. So, in this course, we are not going to pretend that changing your thoughts alone will transform your report card. We are going to use a better sentence, one you can actually use. I can improve with the right strategies and effort. Notice both parts, strategies and effort. Belief without method is a pep talk. Method without effort is a plan that never leaves the notebook. You want both. Later lessons will hand you the strategies, spacing your practice so it sticks, testing yourself instead of only rereading, protecting your attention from the thousand things that want to steal it, taking notes that actually help you remember, preparing for tests without living on pure adrenaline and regret. Today's job is simpler. Get the foundation right so those strategies have somewhere solid to stand. Your brain can change. Change is not automatic. Change follows practice that is smart and consistent enough to matter. If you've ever been told just believe in yourself and then felt stuck anyway, this is why. Belief opens the door. Strategy is what you walk through it with. We're going to give you both, but we're going to be honest about which one carries more of the weight. Let me make this less abstract. Many students and many adults carry a quiet story about being bad at something. Not dramatic movie bad, quietly bad. The kind where you stop raising your hand so nobody notices. The kind where you nod along in class and hope you won't get called on. The kind where you tell yourself, some people get this, I'm not one of them. What usually changes that story isn't a sudden talent transplant. What changes it is the way people practice. Instead of only rereading a chapter and hoping it soaks in through pure exposure, they start trying to solve problems without looking, then checking, then trying again on similar ones. They start explaining steps out loud like they're teaching someone slightly more confused than they are. It feels slower at first. It often feels worse, honestly, because retrieval is harder than recognition. Looking at a page and thinking, yeah, I know this, is easy. Closing the page and proving it is not. Your brain will try to talk you out of the harder method because the easier method feels more successful in the moment. But over weeks, the clumsy feeling shrinks, not because someone became a different person with a new personality and a new brain serial number, because the practice became a different kind of practice. You already have versions of this story in your own life. Every skill you now take for granted was once effortful. Walking, talking, reading, using a phone without thinking about which icon does what. The difference is that school keeps introducing new skills on a schedule, so it's easy to forget that the same process still applies when the skill is algebra or essay structure or speaking in front of the class. Improvement is usually less dramatic than a movie montage and more like a series of slightly less terrible attempts. That's not a bug, that's the process. And if you can remember one time you went from clumsy to capable, you already have evidence that your brain responds to practice. Today, we're just making that evidence explicit so you can use it on purpose. So, what do you actually do with this? Because understanding is nice, using it is better. And we have four practical implications. First, when something feels hard, don't automatically translate that into, I'm not a blank person. Hard is often the first stage of learning, not the final verdict. Difficulty can mean you're in the zone where improvement is possible. If you stay with it using decent methods, feeling lost in the first week of a new unit is normal. Treating that feeling as a permanent identity is optional and usually unhelpful. Second, effort is necessary, but not all effort is equal. Rereading the same passage 5 times can feel productive and still leave you shaky on a quiz. Highlighting every sentence in yellow can look like work and still produce almost no durable memory. Later, we'll get specific about better methods. For now, just notice that I studied a long time and I studied in a way that builds memory are not the same sentence. Time invested is not the same as learning gained. Third, connect new material to old material on purpose. Before class or while reading, ask what this reminds you of. After class, try to explain the main idea without looking. Those are small moves with outsized effects. They force the new leaf to find a branch. Fourth, treat feedback as information, not as a character judgment. A wrong answer tells you where the branch is missing. A low quiz score tells you what to practice next. That's useful. It's not a permanent label on your forehead. The students who improve fastest are often the ones who can look at a mistake without turning it into a story about who they are. None of these require you to become a different personality. They require you to run a slightly better playbook. You don't need to overhaul your entire identity this afternoon. You need one better response the next time something feels hard. Not, I can't, but what strategy haven't I tried yet? A few traps to watch for, because brains are clever at protecting their current habits, even the ones that aren't working. Trap 1, identity statements. I'm just not a writer. I'm not a science person. I've never been good at memorizing. Those sentences feel like self knowledge. Often they are early exits. You can prefer some subjects and still improve in others. Preference is not destiny. I don't enjoy this yet is a different sentence from I can't. Trap 2, pure willpower plans. I'll just try harder. Trying harder with the same weak method is how people get tired and conclude the subject is impossible. Change the method, then apply effort. Harder is not always smarter. Trap 3, waiting to feel ready. Motivation is nice when it shows up. Systems are what work on Tuesdays when motivation is busy elsewhere, or when you'd rather do literally anything else. We'll build systems later in the course. For today, notice when you're delaying practice until you feel like a focused person. Focused people are often just people who started before they felt ready. Trap 4, comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Other people have different prior knowledge, different practice histories, different support outside of school. Use comparison carefully. Better question. Am I a better than I was 2 weeks ago at this specific skill? That question is fair. The other one often isn't. If you catch yourself in one of these traps, you don't need a dramatic life reset. You need a smaller, smarter next step. All right. Pause the pure listening for a minute. I want you to do 2 short reflections. You can write them down or just think them clearly. Either works. Thinking them clearly is better than nodding vaguely and hoping the ideas stick by accident. So, prompt 1, name one school skill or life skill that used to feel hard and now feels easier. What changed? Was it time? Practice? A different way of practicing? Help from someone? A breakthrough explanation? Be specific if you can. The specificity is where the evidence lies. Prompt 2. Name one thing that feels hard right now. Then complete this sentence without using the words, I'm just not good at it. I can get better at this with blank strategies and blank effort. Fill in the blanks with something real, not inspirational fog. Real. Maybe the strategy is practice without looking at the answers first. Maybe the effort is 20 focused minutes 3 times this week. Maybe the strategy is ask one clarifying question in class instead of saying lost. Make it concrete enough that you could actually do it tomorrow. If you did that, you've already started treating your brain like something that responds to practice, not like a finished verdict stamped on a report card. Let's land the plane. 2 big ideas from today. Your brain changes with experience. Learning is not fixed at birth or locked in at age 12. Practice done well leaves a mark. Beliefs about ability matter a little. Strategies plus effort matter a lot. The useful sentence here is I can improve with the right strategies and the right effort. Next time, we're going to talk about strengths and clear up a popular myth that has been hanging around classrooms for years. Spoiler, matching everything to a supposed learning style is not the secret. Flexible strategy use is, and we're going to be specific about what that means for how you study. Your brain is built to learn. Now, go give it something worth practicing. See you next time.